And with this shirt, you can let the dark side know of the Rebel Alliance's power. All available at INFOWARSshop.com.
Sick of the globalist eugenicist control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure. And it's available discounted at INFOWARS.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure. But if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139. And welcome back to this Thursday edition. All week we've been covering the fallout of GlaxoSmithKline with scores of their products, knowing that it didn't treat what they were selling the drug for and got it approved for, and in many cases, like their asthma drug, was killing people. Oh, but they just pay $1 billion fine off of tens of billions they made off one of the drugs that year. Then you've got Merck, their own virologist, coming out and bringing into court in the lawsuit the fact that the MMR shot was actually making people sick and that they knew it was giving it to them. Kind of like Bill and Melinda Gates and the UN giving people the weaponized version of the very diseases that they're giving them these vaccines for. Of course, I'm talking about the latest cases with polio. I mean, reality is so crazy, it just blows the mind. Because now it's every day or two we're learning that there's Vioxx-level scandals where they know, where Bayer knew for 11 years worldwide they were shipping out hepatitis and HIV-filled factor VIII blood clotting agent. It was a death sentence to people. It isn't that they don't just care. From our research, they're eugenicists. They want to kill people while they make profits. In fact, I had the maker of The Greater Good on a few weeks ago, and the Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, who we're about to talk to, is in it, and is a key researcher breaking it down. But even the Wall Street Journal had to say that this was a powerful film that makes you think twice. But I said, why is it balanced? Because the evidence says this is premeditated mass murder. She said, well, I just want it to be mainline so it's not too overwhelming, to paraphrase her. And I said, yeah, but this is about killing people. And she said, well, I was a high-level person for Goldman Sachs, which she was, very high-level, highest echelons, big managing international director. And she said, yeah, one of the heads of the company was a $7 million a year pharma company, was in my office. And he said, I'm going to make billions this year off this drug, and the best part is we're going to kill a bunch of people. And that's when she began to research and then saw the damage from vaccines. And so she's like, oh, yeah, I've been in those meetings. So the point is that this is the type of premeditated evil we're dealing with, and it's admitted. It's no longer our researched view or reading different documents where they call for reducing our population, so we say it looks like they're doing this. The evidence is overwhelming. Now, I've gotten Dr. Sherry Tenpenny back on the show today because there's a lot of breaking news, obviously. She's been valiantly taking the lead in fighting the Gardasil papilloma virus, so-called cervical cancer injections that 6 years ago in the trials were killing people. So Rick Perry came out and, of course, told the world that it's mandatory in Texas, which it wasn't, but people lined up and took it. By doing that, it kicked in government vaccine protection. Because if something is mandatory or semi-mandatory, recommended to the health department, which they then lie and say is mandatory, it kicks in liability protection because the government is promoting it. Just incredible. So they cold-bloodedly did that. Now they're pushing to vaccinate all the girls in Mexico, all the boys and girls in Australia, and Dr. Sherry Tenpenny is all over this right now. and she joins us, and you'll notice underneath her is her website. So be sure and visit it. She's also launched a new website that we're going to be talking about in a moment as well, that is a compendium, probably the biggest compendium out there of the overall research on vaccines and what they're really doing, not the PR put out by these companies. So there's a basic breakdown and analysis. She's here to fill in the spaces. Dr. Tenpenny, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, Alex. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I just threw out a whole bunch of stuff there. What do you want to hit first?
Well, let's talk about the Gardasil vaccine in little boys, because the Gardasil vaccine in little girls is totally unnecessary. We know that they would have to vaccinate every year for I don't know how many generations of girls to achieve the same coverage in terms of decreasing the incidence of cervical cancer as what we get right now from pap smears. So the whole issue about vaccinating little boys, in my opinion, is certainly nothing more than just doubling market share.
I want to expand on that, but out of the gates here, did you see the admissions in the British press of what you said 3.5 years ago, now totally confirmed, that the H1N1 is causing neurological disorders like narcolepsy and other things? I mean, just incredible that that was a hoax as well, and the Canadian research shows that it doubles your chances of getting the regular flu. I mean, what a hoax.
Oh, absolutely. And the one article that came out that said that the H1N1 vaccine didn't cause birth defects, but it did cause 83 confirmed cases of Guillain-Barré. So I looked up what the cost of one case of Guillain-Barré is in this country, and depending on how you break down the numbers, the actual medical costs, they estimate to be about $319,000 for one case of Guillain-Barré. And if you actually talk about the early deaths and the lost time from work and all of those things because of the people that die from Guillain-Barré, in the article from the Journal of Neurology that interviewed 180 people who had Guillain-Barré, it turned out to be $1.7 billion in both lost revenues and in healthcare dollars for 180 cases of Guillain-Barré.
But most of it, as you know, goes unreported. What are those real numbers?
The real numbers of
Guillain-Barré, because I know two different media people in Austin that apologized to me. One of them was Dale Dudley, one of the local morning hosts for decades, one of the top shows in Austin. He went and got the flu shot, and it made his hands and feet go numb. He went to the doctor, and they said, mild Guillain-Barré from your shot. I mean, it's not even debated. And then I know another media person that doesn't want their name mentioned, they got an even worse case. So, I mean, most of the people I know that end up having this effect right after having the shot, it never gets put down in any record.
That's correct. It doesn't get put into any database. So the actual incidence of it is probably much higher than what we might think, because there are other types of things like CIDP, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which is a big mouthful. That is like an extended form of a more severe, long-lasting Guillain-Barré. There are all these mild polyneuropathies and all these peripheral neuropathies and things that they just diagnose with a name called polyneuropathy, but they don't call it Guillain-Barré. So the actual number of cases of Guillain-Barré and other types of side effects and complications from the flu shot is probably in the tens of thousands every year, but it never gets reported. If a full-blown case of Guillain-Barré costs the healthcare system about $319,000 per case, we're talking tens of millions of dollars of healthcare dollars as a side effect of the flu shot or the H1N1 shot. And when they talk about the reason to give the flu shot is to save missed days from work, to keep people from missing work because it's a cost-saving device, they never include all the expenses that go along with treating the side effects as part of the costs of the vaccine program. And that's not only for flu shots, Alex. I would say that's across the board with all of the vaccines.
And again, if you just joined us, folks, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny is a medical doctor and the leading critic, I think everybody agrees, and researcher exposing the dangers of vaccines. What's the bottom line here, just finishing up with the H1N1, because I'm no medical doctor, but prior to the H1N1 rollout hype, fear that was premeditated, clearly, of 3.5, 4 years ago, every insert I saw, every newscast, every doctor I talked to said, don't give a pregnant woman vaccines. clearly they knew about the increase in miscarriages and problems. Suddenly now it's like, oh no, that never existed. Pregnant women, they need the shot. So this new propaganda is like, oh yeah, an increase in Guillain-Barré. But they said, you know, even British journals at the time said they were seeing tenfold increases in seizures in children that took it. So this is obviously a whitewash when they're like, oh, slight chance, but no effect on women. So how do they go from medical orthodoxy, Hippocratic oath, don't give pregnant women vaccines because it can cause an autoimmune response, to, oh my gosh, women need extra shots?
You know, Alex, I was at a vaccine conference. It was the first international meeting. It was the first international neonatal vaccination conference in Washington, D.C. in March of 2004. And one of the presenters at that point in time, that was when they started talking about giving pregnant women flu shots. That was in 2004. And the person on the stage, I remember distinctly him saying, we'll never get away with this. We'll never be able to give flu shots to pregnant women because we tell pregnant women not even to take an aspirin. How are we ever going to get away with injecting them unless we can include not only the pregnant woman but their fetus in the vaccine injury compensation program? And there was a lot of debate that went on about how they could possibly do that. Well, I think that how they've achieved it is by just using pregnant women as an experimentation and just sort of capturing the data after the fact, and again morphing the numbers so that it seems like there's nothing going on. But there's no possible way that they can know at the point in time of a birth whether or not something is going to show up 3 months, 6 months, or a year later that could have been caused in that fetus as it was rapidly developing when the mother was injected with the flu shot. There's another whole area of that, Alex, is the fact that, and I'm in the middle of putting a presentation together about it right now, and the presentation's called Pregnant Moms and Shots, because not only are they talking about the flu shot and the H1N1 shot, they're talking about a pertussis shot either right after birth or maybe in the 3rd trimester. They've now increased the RhoGAM shot to give it at least twice during pregnancy. And in some cases, they even had a one paper saying that maybe we should give moms a Gardasil shot while they're pregnant.
Oh my gosh, I mean, that's on record killing people and causing autoimmune problems. I mean, let's talk about the history of Gardasil, since that's where we started, and now they're going to tell women that, you know, who even needs nutrition, just have hundreds of shots a day. I mean, I know the UN's been connected to focusing shots on pregnant women, and then they have the miscarriages. The UN got caught in the tetanus shot, adding a hormone that's secreted in the 2nd trimester, causing basically abortions. I mean, this is all on record, but we're supposed to just trust them now, and because they say it didn't cause problems with women, even though I noticed that we're seeing statistics of increased miscarriages, increased neonatal problems. I know that for a while the West numbers were getting better. You know, more children were living, infant mortality. Now those numbers are getting worse, but they say everything's fine.
Well, you know, there's a mantra, and it's one of the ways that the vaccine industry has gotten away with everything that they've done for as long as they have, because they have one message: vaccinate everybody with every shot. Vaccines are safe, they protect you, they're harmless, and they cause no problems. So they march to a consistent drummer, and it's one of the problems, I think, inside of our industry of people of trying to get activists and people rallied around a point to fight back, is that there's a lot of different opinions in our industry. You know, maybe vaccines are okay if the mercury's out, so we've got the anti-mercury people, and maybe it's okay if we wait till they're 2 years of age, and maybe some vaccines are okay but not others. I can't tell you how many times I get the question. So, Dr. Tenpenny, if you had to pick just a couple, which ones would you pick? And I always say that injecting foreign matter into little human beings